Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wigan Weekly. I'll tell you what, it's been a hell of a long time. We've been a bit behind on this podcast, but we're back, and it's fair to say we've got a lot to go through. How are you doing, Curtis? Curtis is joining me as usual. I do, mate. Good.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, it's certainly been a busy past couple of weeks, and it'd be good to try and find some rhythm again with this and keep it weekly. Otherwise, we should be changing the name.
Yeah, well, yeah, we might call it Wigan annually. Maybe we might call it that. We're not careful.
Fair enough.
Um, We'll start with first, really. I suppose we'll start with the last 5 games. Yeah, that's a good way to start.
Yep.
Um, Honestly, start to the season's been impressive. I think we can all agree on that. The first game was on a Saturday, the 2nd of August, where we beat Northampton by 3 goals to 1. Fair to say, we quite frankly shown a lot of class. To be honest, it was a bit different to what we saw last season. Would you not agree, Kurt?
Yeah, I think, in that game, it was like we got to the point of being 3-0 up and everyone just couldn't believe their eyes. It was like last season, if we'd have scored 3 goals at home, it'd have been considered Christmas, really. Goals galore. But yeah, I mean, there was one crazy stat that it was like, well, if we scored 3 goals in that one game, that's like 7.5% of our entire goal tally in the league for last season, which just puts it into perspective, really. I think, if we can keep that form going at home, plenty of goals, it should be more exciting. I can see why the fans were buzzing after that first game.
Yeah, it was nice seeing a positive debut for both Christian Sadie and Fraser Murray. Obviously, we'll get into them too in a bit more detail later on. But those two particularly Murray had a fantastic debut. Overall, that was a really good way to start the season. Northampton were kept fairly quiet. They did get a consolation in the 70th minute, but honestly, didn't really make it. It wasn't going to ruin anyone's day. Wigan played really well in the sunshine. You can't really ask for much more, to be honest.
Nope, you certainly can't.
So then we moved on to second game of the season, which was a 2-0 defeat at Brisbane Road to Leyton Orient. To be quite frankly honest, I think that it's fair to say there wasn't anything really positive in that game. A red card for Stephen Session and an own goal. Doesn't quite get much worse than that for a player in one game. Yeah, honestly, the stats wise, it's you see from this game a total of 14 shots to 4 from Leyton Orient. They had 5 on target. We didn't have a single shot on target. So you look at that and you think, yeah, pretty bad day at the office. Not one to really look at in a good way. Honestly, what did you think, Curtis, from that Leyton Orient thrashing?
Yeah, I think that game was a total write-off. Like you said, own goal, red card. Not even to mention that video that went viral on social media. The less I say about it, the better. But yeah, it just seems like that day was one to forget about.
It was one to forget about. I think that was obviously because that Northampton game, it was almost like, oh, we're going to win the league. And then it was a bit like, okay, never mind, every reality, just kick back in.
Yeah,
But
Cloud9 to reality. Yeah, sounds about right.
yeah. Anyway, moving on from that, we went into the break of league football, went into the EFL. Well, yeah, EFL Cup, and it was a very close. It was a close match and a well fought win to beat Notts County 1-0. Paul in penalty. I'm not gonna lie, as far as EFL Cup games go, it wasn't a very entertaining one, but we did the job. And yeah, it was just a case of parking the bus and doing some decent defending. Really, that's the best way I could describe that performance. Have you got any strong thoughts on that game, Kurt?
No, not particularly. I think you've summed it up well. I think I wasn't expecting us to get a penalty because if you remember last season, it literally took us about 40 games to actually get a penalty in the league. But yeah, I think, once with that lead, they did well to keep hold of it. I thought that there was a couple of chances that they could have got the equalised. There was one point where it literally hit the sidebar and it went there at the side of the goal, and all their fans started getting up thinking that they'd scored. That was probably to the match.
I think with that game, for the AFL Cup game, I will say fair play, not counted. They certainly brought a lively bunch of fans, considering it was like,
Yeah, and I mean, they did space themselves out.
What is the distance? It's about 3 hours, I'd say.
Yeah, give or take, it's not exactly on your front doorstep.
No, not quite. But yeah, you know what? It was nice to get into the second round for the first time since 2021. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
There you go. So that was a nice little midweek outing. Following on from that, it was a really good performance against Peterborough, in which we won 2-0 the following Saturday, the 16th. Honestly, just that was a really good day. It was 2-0 at half time. Goals from Christian Sadie and Jason Kerr. The first goal for Sadie, and then a rare goal for Jason Kerr. That was a good game. The sun was out. The performance was really good. I don't know why, but that was one of my favourite Wigan games for a while back at home. And I don't know why. There was just something about that day. I'm not too sure why, to be honest. I just really enjoyed it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, we're bringing this more sort of exciting play of football in at home. And I mean, it'd be good to replicate the form away. But I think, people pay a lot of money for these season tickets and stuff. And it's good to see that, we're actually doing something rather than what can only be described as boring football last season, really.
Yeah, very predictable football. This season we seem to be. Well, I mean, I don't know about just playing. I mean, it's just we seem to be just killing games off. I mean, being 2-0 up at half time is always a good place to be in. Let's face it.
Yeah, of course it is, and I think, but this is where I say, going back to last season and it being boring, it's like, a lot of these games, it's like when we had that week in September where there was about 3 games over 7 or 8 days, and they were like, we'd scored no goals in any of them. It was kind of like, if we were watching the same thing week in, week out, it's not really the most positive of things. But to see that we've scored, 3 games in the first league, 3 goals in the first league game, then another 2 in the second one at home, it's just completely different. And I like this sort of energy that the squad's got, and that they can actually go forward and find the net.
Yeah, it has been. We will get into that in a bit more because, we will go through sort of what Ryan Lowe's intentions look like so far this season. So that was the Saturday the 16th. We then moved on to a positive. Well, no, not positive. I mean, Luton away was followed by Luton away on number 19 for Tuesday midweek game. We got beat 1-0, an early goal from George Saville. I think that to get beat 1-0 by Luton is not a bad result by any means. I think it could have been 3-0 maybe. So honestly, I didn't really have too many strong opinions. I didn't actually watch the game. It was one of those games I just didn't follow or didn't even bother looking at the highlights, to be honest. I couldn't really comment too much on it. From what I've seen, it was an alright goal from Luton. And we just went. I mean, we were just simply the worst team. That's the best way to put it, really. I mean, have you got any opinions on that game, Kurt? The Luton defeat?
No, because I mean, I'm pretty much in the same boat as you. I've not really seen any of the highlights. I think, it's unfortunate, but they are going to be one of them teams, They've more than likely still got a good amount of Prem money left, and they can have a somewhat decent squad in this division. I think, if you can get a result against them, then you've cracked it.
Yeah, I think Luton, like you say, positive win for them. I wouldn't say they've been fantastic. I think they've been decent, but I think they could do a bit better. I think they could be doing even more there, really. But
yeah, by all means, they're not top of the table. They're not, maybe where they want to be at the minute, but there's not. It's all still to play for, really, which is why, especially when we're talking about the loss at Leyton Orient, and that I'm not really bothered by it because there's still a lot to go.
Yeah, there is a long way to go. what I will say is that I feel like the teams that came down from the Championship haven't actually been that amazing. To be fair, I don't think anyone has necessarily been standout. I mean, Cardiff have been all right, but I still think they could have done better. I don't know. But yeah, apart from Cardiff, though, I mean, you look at sort of, I mean, just no one. I just don't think that it's been that good of a level. Really, I feel like it was quite a big jump down for them teams that came down, but not many of them have really got going yet in League One. So it will be interesting to see how that keeps going as the season progresses. Um, with that, we jump into what was a draw the following Saturday, the 23rd, which was Rotherham 2, Wigan 2. I watched it along with Morgan. I have to say, I actually was quite impressed with that performance, to be fair. I think Ryan underestimated Rotherham, and they threw quite a lot at us, to be honest. We took the lead for an own goal. I'd argue it should have been a Trevor goal. They equalised. We took the lead, but it was a late equaliser for us from Paul Mullin. Fantastic to see him off the mark, wasn't it, Curtis? With a first league goal for Wigan.
Yeah, I think a lot of Wrexham fans are following along because he's come here, and I think if we can get what we can out of him, then he'll be a great talent this season. And I mean, I know some will say, oh well, he's currently a bench warmer or whatever, but if we can have impact substitutions, then that could really change the spirit of some of the games. You know what I mean? Just to even get an equaliser there, where we could have dropped a point last season, is still good going.
That is a really good analogy. I completely agree with that. I think Paul Mullen's a perfect player to bring on and give you a bit of a bench boost. I think overall it's not a fantastic result by any means, but I feel like we got a bit lucky in the end. And Paul Mullen was the reason we got that luck from. So yeah, fair play Wigan. I think it was a good point on the road in Yorkshire, and I've not got too many complaints, to be honest. And then following on from that, we're up to date now. We've got the Tuesday just gone. We played Stockport County at the Brick. In the Carabao Cup round 2. We didn't go because, quite frankly, we're playing them twice in 1 week. It just doesn't seem worth it, to be honest. But
first game of a double header.
Yeah, not really too much exciting of weeks for football, really. But yeah, a late goal from Fraser Murray, who scores again. He really is looking to be the signing of the season so far for us. I think he'll be player of the season already, and it's quite early, but I genuinely think that's what will happen.
Yeah, it's like you go on Twitter every time there's a gameplay, and it's like everyone's talking about Fraser Moore, and they're like, "How do we get this guy on a free?" Give him it's just full of over exaggerations, like give him the Ballon d'Or and stuff. I mean, okay, maybe he's not that good, but he's definitely very good for this level. And I mean, Kilmarnock, unfortunate.
I think overall, just fantastic play. He's fast, he's pacey, he gives us a bit of a boost in the attack. One of the main reasons that we actually are converting these chances, to be fair, is because of him. But we're up to date now. The upcoming fixture is, like we just said, Stockport again this Saturday. Have you got a score prediction, Curtis?
Well, I think I will go with. I can't remember if I said this on the article that we're putting out, but if you're asking me again now, I think we're more than capable of potentially replicating what we did on Tuesday and get another 1-0 victory. I think, Stockport are a good team, and I don't think we're going to be able to put 2 or 3 past them. But if we can, keep them away from our net, I think we're more than capable of sneaking in and getting a goal against them and taking the 3 points as well as their place in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I think we're capable, to be fair. I think Stockport, they have had a good start, to be fair, but like you say, I think they will be a bit tender from the defeat in midweek. Difficult. Stockport are a really good team. I feel like they should have gone up last season, but they were. Surprisingly, they were denied by Leyton Orient. I do think that Dave Chandler's a very good manager for this level. I do see them going up. I think they're strong favourites to get the playoff or maybe top 2. I can't see us getting the win personally. I reckon it'll be a 1-1 draw. I think we're capable of taking the lead, but are we capable of keeping the lead? Probably not. I think they just have too much talent, but I still think we've got enough talent to be able to keep it a point each way. So I'm not yeah, I'm not confident we'll get a win, but I'm confident we'll be able to get at least a draw. I think that would be a fair result. Do you? A draw?
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. Anything we can get against these stronger teams, I'll definitely take as a win. I think, I might be a bit ambitious there saying that we could potentially replicate Tuesday's result. But then again, like we say, there's be different players playing. And I think ultimately it depends if we can get anyone in the final days of the transfer window being open, especially after the whole Mabea incident
Yeah,
against
well,
Notts County that we didn't go over.
we will get into that. I just said, yeah, I think, like I was saying, I think the start of the season has been good. I think that up to this point, we're in a good position. I think we've played better than expected. I think the fans are happy. Yeah, there's not really any reason that I don't think we can. If we can maintain this consistency, we can easily, I think, finish in the top 10. Easily, I think. Okay, well, with that, obviously, there has been a few transfers. There's not been loads, there's been a few since we last did the podcast. And sadly, there's obviously been the arrival of Morgan Fox. We went over him a little bit on the social media. In terms of what is your opinion on Morgan Fox, Curtis? Do you think, obviously, my initial thoughts was that he's a good veteran of the EFL and that's what we need. So what was your opinion on him then?
Yeah, I think you've completely hit the nail on the head there. He's got EFL experience. He's played for championship teams and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, might be getting on a bit, but I mean, he's got a proven record at some of these clubs. A couple of goals. So I think even though he's maybe not a goal scorer as such, I think he can offer a fair amount defensively in that.
Yeah, I think he could, to be fair. I think with him, yeah, like I say, 31. It's not young. I know that he's not played a massive amount because I think Ryan Lowe had to get him up to scratch because he's not played for about. Well, he missed the entire preseason being a free agent. But yeah, like I say, most recently at QPR, that is a very good level. They are one of the most established championship teams. I mean, they've been in that league for about 10 years now, at least. So yeah, I completely agree on that front. At QPR, the experience is fantastic, and yeah, I think that going into the season where we need talent, he's the sort of player you want to have. I think he could be the difference between us getting a top 10 finish and us getting a top 15 finish, to be honest. So yeah, I think overall a really good signing in Morgan Fox. We did sign. Well, I mean, Ryan Trevitt joined. I think I've been quite impressed, to be fair. I never really expect massive things from lone players, but he has made quite a good impact, if I'm being completely honest. What's your thoughts, Kurt, on Mr. Trevitt?
Yeah, I think like you said, he's made a good contribution. I think it's just unfortunate that the what was supposed to be his goal at Rotherham ended up to be put down as an own goal. But I think like you say, promising talent, and hopefully he can bag some for us this season.
Well, fingers crossed that is a regular thing. Now we got Isaac Mabea in, and this is what you mentioned before. His first game was against. Well, no, I think he appeared. Did he appear briefly against Northampton? I'm pretty sure he came on with maybe 10 minutes to spare. I want to double check that quick. Line up. Yeah, he came on with about 20 minutes to go. So yeah, he had a feature there. He featured against who was it he played in round one? Notts County. He appeared briefly there and did go off injured quite early on. I think it is. I think it is a hefty spell on the sideline for him. I think he did his ACL. Quite frankly, that is a bad injury by all means. It's a shame because 2 games in, well, 2.5, well, 1.5 games in, injured. I mean, you can't like it, can you, Kurt?
No, you can't. But I think unfortunately, Mabea does seem to have a bit of an injury record. And I think we took a bit of a punt there, which is it's unfortunate that he's had this serious Achilles injury. But Ryan Lowe is now saying that Liverpool should do the right thing and cancel his loan and not make us pay any money for it. What do you think about that?
You know what? I think it's difficult because, well, obviously, with a loan deal, it's Because because with a loan deal, it's quite. Loan deals are a good venture because you don't actually pay them. There's no fee with a loan deal. So realistically, the only fee for us is it will pay about, I don't know. Let's say, for example, we pay 40% of his wages, and then Liverpool pay the other 60%. You half it, you split it. So there's no money involved apart from the wage front. But yeah, obviously the agreement is if it's a year, it's usually from that the summer you bought him to about June 1st. If it's a 6-month loan, it's January the 1st. I think overall, I think it's a bit cheeky from Ryan Lowe to ask that Liverpool should do him a favour, but at the same time, I don't. I think it's difficult. If Liverpool take him back, then I appreciate it. But if they don't, I can sort of understand where they're coming from. Yeah, like you say, it would be nice to see him go back so we can make room for one more loan signing. But will that be the case? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think we've taken a punt here, and I think it's just unlucky. It happens.
It's unfortunate.
But what Lowe's saying is, and I quote, "We took a chance on him with his injury record, and I'd like Liverpool to return that favour by saying, okay, no problem, we'll terminate the loan. You don't have to pay no money." So yeah, I think if they want to be kind and thank us for taking the punt, then yeah, please sort it out, Liverpool, because we need to not have loan spaces wasted like last season with Luke Chambers, which was also another unfortunate one, really.
It was. Luke Chambers is a player that I really liked, but yeah, it is what it is. It sadly wasn't meant to be. So we've gone to that's the arrivals that we didn't go through. In terms of departures, been some surprising ones. Ronan Darcy joined Chesterfield on a season-long loan. If I'm completely honest, that was a move that shocked me a little bit. To be honest, it came out of nowhere, very random. He's been told that he doesn't really fit into Ryan Lowe's plans going forward, which is a bit harsh, but obviously that is the truth. I'm not really sure what to make of this. Do you think he's been mistreated there, Curtis, Ronan Darcy?
Yeah, I think it's a bit unfair. Well, would you call it unfair or unlucky with some of these players have been, demoted to the under-21s and then given loan moves? But I think at the end of the day, if you're not going to get game time and you want to, develop your football, I think it's important that you get loaned out to these places where you can actually get more game time and experience. And then, if you go out there and smash it, there's a potential for you to either have a place in the first team and shine, or maybe we can actually sell on and make a bit of money.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think with Ronan Darcy, the problem is though is that it's not very sustainable because we only bought him in January, and
that's the point as well. Because when you're going to go and talk about John Mellish in a minute, you're going to say the exact same thing, and it makes you think about last season's recruitment.
It does, but then again, though, the big difference being though, obviously, Sean Maloney made them sign, and Ryan Lowe didn't have any say in that. So realistically, you can't really fault Ryan Lowe because it's not actually like he was the one who made that sacrifice. It was.
Well, no, and yeah, you're right in that respect. No, it's not his fault that he's inherited these players that don't match his style. But you just got to make sure that going forward, maybe our recruitment's a bit better.
Yeah, I think that. So then next up, John Mellish, who we just touched on, he joins NK Dons on another loan for the season. Honestly, I think this one makes less sense because, quite frankly, John Mellish is one of my, not all my favourite players, but he's one of the better players we've got. He's versatile. He's a good defender. He gets stuck in, which is quite frankly something that I feel like every team in League One desires. Also, he has got a bit of quality. He was massively loved by Carlisle. It also just makes me think that, I don't know, we've just lost a really good player off the bench there, to be honest. I get that he might not want to be on the bench, but I don't know. I feel like NK Dons is a bit below what his desired level is.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's probably important to say this with Darcy as well. They've both played in League Two teams and they've made the step back up. Well, they made the step up to League One when they've obviously come to League One clubs or their club's been promoted, and it's it's unfortunate to see them go back on themselves, really. But you just got to take the step back and try and show why you're better than that level, and see what the future brings.
Yeah, you do. Completely agree with that. But yeah, overall, these signing, I mean, these departures have shocked me a little bit, but is what it is. Can't really change it. So we'll see what happens. Really, I think with 3 days to go in the transfer window, there's two players that's futures look uncertain at Wigan, and those two for me are Dion Rankine and Matt Smith. I think one of them is definitely going to go. Well, two of them could go, but I think one will definitely go. Rankine was linked with Crew in, well, I mean, I think as early as July. He was seen at a game, one of their pre-season games against Birmingham, and it didn't go any further than that. But I don't know. Maybe I'm going to presume that we couldn't reach a deal, but I'd feel a bit of Rankine because I think Rankine, compared to Mellish and Darcy, he's been mistreated because I do think that Rankine actually is quite a class footballer, full of potential. He's still very young. I just think that, I think it is a real shame to see this happen to Rankine, if I'm being completely honest.
Fair enough.
And then as for Matt Smith, I think Matt Smith as well. I don't know. I don't. I mean, Matt Smith decent. I mean, at the end of the day, he can do a good job, and that's something that you want in your team. Will he go? I'm not too sure. We'll see what happens there, really. But yeah, I reckon at least one of the two will be gone by what day is the first?
Monday.
Monday. Yeah, there you go. By Monday. So yeah, we'll see what happens with them too. But overall, I think if this is what our window's going to finish on, I think in terms of, I mean, outgoing's not fantastic, but I think in terms of arrivals, it's been a fantastic window in that respect. I mean, we spent 400k, which isn't a massive amount because I know that I expected we probably spend more, to be honest. But overall, 400k is pretty decent. We signed Christian Sadie, Costello, Callum Wright on loan, Mullen on loan, Trevor on loan, Mabeir on loan, Fraser Murray, Morgan Fox, and then of course Darren Costello. Overall, a really good window. I think that we brought the right players in, and I think now it's just a case of seeing what happens between now and the start of May. So big season ahead. If I had to ask you, Kurt, where you think we're going to finish, and I don't mean whereabouts, I mean exact spot, where do you think we're going to finish at this moment in time?
Oh, now you're asking. I think, if we've got good home form and we can maybe get some results away, I'm going to say best case scenario, maybe 7th. But I think, I think we'd have to, keep up a regular sort of performance at home and definitely some away.
Yeah, away games have not been kind to us. Home games have been fantastic for us. It's one of them, really. But, if our home form stays as it is, I'm not complaining because we go to more home games than away games, so it doesn't really bother us too much, to be honest. But, fingers crossed we can keep up the form, to be honest. Is there anything else you want to go over, Kurt? Is there any transfer targets you can see we can get in before Monday? Is there anyone we're linked to at the moment? I feel like the only player I saw was that Jeff Hendrick. Apart from him, I've seen nothing else.
I've not even seen any names be mentioned in the past couple of weeks. It just feels like it's gone awfully quiet on that front.
It has.
Yeah, there's not really much to report on that front. I think, we're coming up to the end of this window. You'd like to think there'd be some names being chucked about, but it's just the way it is. If it finishes like this, it finishes like this. But I think, if we want to get that best case scenario finish, I think we definitely probably need to bring 1 or 2 more in.
Yeah, we do. We really do. So is there anything else you want to touch on?
No, I think that's it, unless you've got anything else to say. I think, we've summed up the first month of football quite well. It's definitely been one of ups and a couple of downs, but I think, there's a lot of positives to take away from the start of this season compared to last season. And I think, if we keep going, put the work in, we can definitely achieve.
Yeah, we can. And it is just, I mean, this season, I think it's going to be a marathon, not a sprint. But we will see what happens. With that, everyone, thanks for coming on, Kurt. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening, everyone. And I hope you enjoy what's left of this week, and hopefully see you on the weekend. What is the event that's happening on Saturday? I can't remember what it's called now.
It's to do with Northern Soul and music and that. There's a load of activities going on.
Should be a decent Saturday afternoon. Hopefully,
Try and get loads of it in the vlog.
Yeah, we will. And yeah, until next time, guys, please keep up the support. Please share. Please like our videos. Please follow us on all the socials. Until next time, stay safe. And yeah, remember to be all things Latics. See you guys. Have fun.